Nick Luisi is the owner of Roslyn Social in Roslyn, New York. Roslyn Social rose to the area's premier location for elevated pub and Italian food. The restaurant features craft cocktails, a local beer menu, and 17 large screen TVs to view all your favorite sporting events. They feature 2 dining rooms and a spacious rooftop. They are proud to use all natural products in their kitchen and offer full service catering for off-site events, in addition to in-house catering in their executive room, rooftop, piano lounge, patio, and bar side. Welcome, Nick. I will hand the webinar controls over to you now.
Thank you so much, Stacy, for the introduction. First, before I start, I want to thank everybody for having me on here, especially you, Stacy. This is a great thing, and I'm just going to start with telling everybody how I got involved with St. John's. Obviously, I'm an alum, proud alum. I went to Holy Trinity High School, which is over here in Hicksville, Long Island. I played baseball, so my connection with St. John's, with the university, was obviously through athletics. That's something that I still stay very close with. I'm a big supporter of the athletic program, St. John's University, especially the baseball program. If you do go by the baseball field, you will see a pretty large Roslyn Social banner out there. So that's something that's very near and dear to my heart. And that was my connection, my always connection with St. John's University. When I went to St. John's, I was a hospitality major. I double minored in business and restaurant management. I wasn't necessarily sure if I was going to go in the restaurant management route, but a couple of years later, and we end up where we are now. So fast forward a little bit. I know, the base of this conversation is really to tell you guys a little bit about COVID and how I kind of navigated the restaurant through there. But I had a lot of things that went on, throughout this period, this time. It's definitely starting from when I opened up this restaurant, Roslyn Social. So I'm going to start from the beginning, and then I'm going to bring my way through. So when I opened up Roslyn Social, it was, if anyone's familiar with the space, if anyone's familiar with Roslyn in the area itself, Roslyn Social was a Greek restaurant before me. They went out of business in about March 2019. I took over then. I reopened with a new concept. I went sports bar. That was kind of the idea that I had for the restaurant, because in that area of Roslyn, there are not many sport-focused or casual dining areas or dining hangout spots. Focused more towards kind of like a bar with elevated pub food. So I opened up in July 2019. The advantage that I had at that time period was, well, funny enough, when I did open up, I didn't think it was going to be busy because it was the summer. Traditionally in Roslyn, in that area, it's not too busy in the summer, just because a lot of people go out to the Hamptons, they take vacations, the kids go away to camp. There's a lot of things that go on with the families. And so when I opened up, I said, I'm going to have 2 or 3 months to kind of get things going in the right direction. I was wrong. The day I opened up, I was absolutely slammed, because the advantage that I had at that time, which actually plays into COVID a lot, is that I have a rooftop. So, in the summer of 2019, when I opened up, I had a rooftop that nobody else had, and people were very interested in seeing what was going on with a new restaurant. So I was super slammed, and it was great. And, I kept going with this nightlife thing. I kept going with this bar thing. I kept going with this elevated pub food type idea. And I pushed a lot of the sporting events. I pushed a lot of again, nightlife styled environment. In the area, obviously there are a lot of restaurants that play off nightlife, but they don't stay open too late. And I was the place that kind of stayed open a little bit later. So as you can see, all these things, again, moving forward and looking forward into COVID, this was going to be a problem for me as a restaurant owner, because a lot of those things were then taken away from me. But again, I opened up in July 2019. Then as I progressed as a sports bar and things started really hitting their stride in, let's say, the end of December, January, February, we all know what happened in March. So March 2020, we all, as a restaurant owner, I do have a couple of people that I work very closely with that own other restaurants, and we're all together in this, and we kind of talk about things and hear things out from each other. But once that kind of came down in March, and we got the word that we were going to be closed, let's say for 2 weeks, whatever it was. I believe the date was March 16th. It was right before St. Patrick's Day, and obviously, how I set up the restaurant. St. Patrick's Day was going to be a very, very big occasion for us because we had a lot of party things going on, a lot of interesting stuff that we had planned, especially for the future. So I closed the restaurant. I didn't know really what to do. I didn't know what direction I was going to go in with the space, because we're all under the understanding that we were going to be closed for about 2 weeks. So I said, you know what, 2 weeks, everyone's going to take a nice little vacation, whatever it is, we'll just regather, we'll get everything together. And then in another 2 weeks, we'll come back a lot stronger. We'll have the same concept, the same everything. As things moved along, and, I kind of got an idea that 2 weeks was going to be a little bit longer. I could have opened up. I remember trying to have the idea to put out a catering menu, but the whole concept that I really built around was not geared up for takeout food. It was not geared up for catering. It was not geared up for people to say, "Hey, Roslyn Social, hey Nick, how are things going? Can I get a tray of so and so?" So I based my restaurant on an experience and a vibe and an environment, and that's something that was taken away from me. So it was obviously very difficult, as a restaurateur, as a restaurant owner, anybody even working in the restaurant, because my staff felt the same thing. So basically what happened was I made a decision to close. I closed for about a month and a half. And during that time, I really, to be honest with you, I didn't know what was going on, because I don't think anybody in the world at the time knew what was going on. I thought that I could have lost my restaurant. There were talks with other people of just getting out. I was going to lock the door. I still had people to pay. I had a lot of vendors that I promised that I would, obviously make good with them, and I did. But at the time, it was all up in the air. I had a challenging moment, for myself as a restaurant owner and as a business owner in general. Like, I'm sure most of us had that thought process go through our head at the time. We didn't really know what was going to happen. And I didn't know what direction to go. I said, maybe I just get out of the restaurant business completely and move on to something else, and that was a real conversation. But at the end of the day, I stayed closed for that month and a half, and there were a lot of conversations that I had with people to change the concept. I was going to go from sports bar to complete pizza and pasta. I was going to go to tacos. I was going to go to ghost catering kitchens in the basement, because I know none of you have been to the kitchen part of the restaurant. Hopefully some of you have been to Roslyn Social in general, but my kitchen is huge, and I can almost cater. I can cater 250 people out of my kitchen easy, no problem. But so that was the thought process that I had. I mean, at the time, obviously, if you took a look around and you saw the restaurants that were doing really well, you had a lot of Asian, and you had a lot of Italian restaurants and pizzerias that were just absolutely crushing it, because that stuff was very, very easy for people to call in and take out to go. So that was the beginning process of me, making a COVID switch. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a couple of minutes. But I also wanted to add in there that, because I know I spoke a little bit briefly about this before with Stacy, actually, during this whole process of COVID, which, if anybody's followed Roslyn Social, if anybody's followed myself, social media, I do a lot of things on there. But at the time, my father, this was in February, he needed a kidney donation. And obviously COVID was going on. So, there were a lot of things that were thrown into that. So, it was obviously a life or death type thing for my dad. And, as a business owner, I knew that I had a reach to be able to kind of try and contact people and try and get things moving for my pops, even though it was a tough time of obviously history. But I decided to make the decision to do it myself. Right. So during this whole process, in this beginning of COVID and me possibly losing the restaurant, I said to myself, okay, well, if I'm going to lose this restaurant, I know that I can still do one thing, and that's kind of save my dad's life, right? So I started going through the process of, this was in March also when COVID hit, I closed down. I started going through the process of getting tested to be a kidney donor match for my father. And my first go around was that I was a match. And then all of a sudden, I myself got COVID. So I got COVID at the end of March, and that kind of pushed everything back because, one, at the time, nobody even knew what COVID was really. I remember going to the doctor telling me that I had bronchitis. And I was like, yeah, I was like, there's no way this is bronchitis. I can't breathe. It's been about 3 weeks, you know? So between the fact that I thought I lost the restaurant, you know, was trying to donate a kidney, then got COVID, a disease that I don't think, or whatever you want to call it, that nobody knew what it was at the time. And I don't, you know, I'm not sure we still know what it is, but at the time, you know, nobody really knew what it was. I was all over the place. So it was a very interesting March, April for me at that time because there were a lot of things going on that I didn't know if it was even worth it to put the restaurant first. And I kept trucking through it. And I remember uh, I said, you know what? I said, I'm going to reopen this restaurant as the summer comes along. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy 8 slushy machines. So I bought 8 slushy machines. And I know a lot of the people at the time, other restaurants at the time, were doing the same thing. So I bought these slushy machines. And I actually, if anyone's familiar with restaurants around Queens area, Blend, which is a restaurant in Astoria, was actually, you know, a huge catalyst in helping me out because these guys, they sold me a lot of slushy machines and I used them. And what I did was from, I believe, March 1st until June 6th or June 7th was when I was allowed to open up for outdoor dining, which leads back to me having a rooftop, which helped out a lot. I sold only slushies. So I did alcoholic slushies. I did slushies, you know, cocktails. I did everything with slushies. And it actually got me through about a month and a couple of weeks, you know, until I was fully allowed to open up. So in this whole time that I was kind of trying to figure out what concept I was going to go with at Roslyn Social, because now I had a sports bar, I had no bar, and I had no sports. So both of the things that, you know, I based this entire restaurant around, this whole entire concept were going. So I said, you know what? I need to focus more on, because I knew I had an opportunity. My opportunity was I have a rooftop, and June 6th or 7th, whatever the exact date was, everybody's going to be allowed to come out and eat outside, and I don't have to put any money into it because it's already here. So my rooftop holds about 50 people, let's say 40, 50 people. During COVID, I had to basically cut that a little bit to, let's say 30, 25, 30. But I knew I had an opportunity. So I had a new chef. We hired a chef, and I changed the concept of the food. I knew what the people in the area wanted to eat. I knew they liked fish. I knew they liked pasta. I knew they liked a little bit more of Italian. Myself being Italian, it was a little bit easier to kind of make that transition and make everything come in. I used to play a lot of, you know, house music or loungy nighttime music. I made a switch to playing Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Rat Pack. You know, I played a lot of different types of music so that I could get a crowd for dinner because I knew that my bar was gone. I knew that my sport life was gone. I knew that my nightlife was wiped out. The only thing that I could definitely be confident about was I had people coming in to eat. So I was open for lunch and dinner. We had to be out of there. I believe it was at 8 o'clock at the time, 8 or 9 o'clock, because I know they put the limit on us at the time. But I knew I had to capture the people there. So once the summer hit, you know, I made this transition from restaurant that was a nightlife focused place to a restaurant that was a dinner focused place. And I had so many people coming in, you know, from all over the place because one, I had a rooftop. Two, you know, I was very fortunate to have a very good relationship with with, let's say, Newsday and the social media platforms, the food bloggers, so a lot of them started to come in. A lot of them started to take pictures of these new things that we created. I would say that I had a dish that I don't know if I created it, but I marketed it the right way, and it was basically chicken parmesan hero, but it was with vodka sauce, and I called it a drunken chicken. So this drunken chicken parmesan hero just absolutely took off, and I was able to market it to these food bloggers and these food people, and they kept posting it, posting it, posting it. And along with having a rooftop, along with being a place that you can go and hang out and still be outside, not being in a tent, because I didn't need to put a tent up there. Fortunately, also leading back to that, we had great weather, if anybody remembers that entire summer. So I was super, super lucky. But I started getting all these people coming in, these food bloggers, these different customers I used to have people from the Hamptons driving this way, and they'd stop by Roslyn Social because they saw it on somebody's food page. So I had all this different clientele coming by, and they all said to me the same thing. We never came here before because we heard that you were a sports bar, a pub. I said, yeah, honestly, I was. But with all the stuff that went on with COVID, I had to change, and I made the flip. And they said, this feels like an actual dinner restaurant. And I said, it is. I have the music going. It's geared more towards a more mature crowd, I'll say. Because before COVID, I had a lot of young kids, a lot of party kids, a lot of kids that wanted to go out and have a good time. And that was great. But what I've learned, or what I figured out, is that if I had the people in there for dinner, that was the most important part, because they stayed. They were a mature crowd. Their word of mouth probably had more weight than the kid that was coming out for a drink. So I really had to change everything. I really had to change the mindset of the staff. I had to change my mindset because I was geared one way. I had to change the uniforms. I had to change, just how service was going about, because this was now basically a shot at a new restaurant. Because the advantage that I had over a lot of other people was that I was new. So yes, I was a sports bar, but I was only 8 months going before COVID really hit. So I was still a new restaurant that didn't have a set, path. Yeah, you want to have one, and it's probably the most ideal thing, but it actually helped me out, because I was able to move and maneuver, and you know, to this day, it's still growing as a restaurant. So I see what people want, and I still try and kind of maneuver to that. But the summer of 2020, again, going back to kind of like everything that was involved in March, April, and May with me, especially with the kidney thing, which I'm going to get into real quick. Not real quick, but it was kind of the biggest thing that went on in my life, obviously. In the summer of 2020, I had, like a lot of restaurants in Long Island, we were very fortunate because, unfortunately, and I don't want to say this in a bad way, but it was fortunate for us that the city was closed. And I'm not going to lie. I mean, it sounds terrible to say, but it helped out a lot of the restaurants in Long Island. And Roslyn is 10 minutes from the border of Queens. So again, leading into all this new concept that I was putting out there, all these people that were living in the city had nowhere to eat. So they would just drive out to Long Island and park and walk around Roslyn and grab food. So, a lot of the places really did benefit from it. And I think I was one of them. And, you can look at COVID from a business standpoint as a negative thing. And for a lot of people, it was. But for the restaurant itself, it started out negative. But I was able to kind of get, the group of people together and move it in the right direction where it flipped to a positive thing. And, that's something that you won't be able to take away from myself and Roslyn Social, because I knew where we were, monetarily, at the end of the day, to be honest with you guys, there was not much money in the bank when COVID hit. There wasn't. I was a new restaurant. I was I was 7, 8 months old, and we were just trying to pay the bills and get things going and keep moving forward. And once COVID hit, that's why a lot of the thing into my head went, maybe I should just drop out and back out of this thing because, there's not much money in the bank. I still have a lot of people that I have to pay, you know. If I pay those people, I'll probably definitely be in debt. And, that was stuff that I thought about. And you know what? Leading into the PPP money, I got the first round of that. That helped out. It helped out with rent. My landlord during the summer, because obviously, he gave me a little bit of a break, in March and April, just because we were closed, which really did help me out. And then, but once summer came back around, everybody kind of had to get paid a little bit. So, I had that PPP money. I used it for the right things, and that helped me have a support monetarily in the bank, at least, to be able to change a little bit and move forward with a new concept. So I did that, and that helped me out. And the summer of 2020 was super busy. Every single day. If you guys remember, if anyone remembers, there was a hurricane, I believe, at that time, and it kind of wiped out a lot of restaurants because nobody had power. And for whatever reason it was, I had power at the time, and I had a rooftop, I had power. At that time, it was in, I believe, August, so you were allowed to eat inside at a limited capacity. But my whole place was packed for 4 days, and it was awesome. But that whole summer was rocking and rolling, and that at that time, I still had in the back of my head, okay, and well, now I have to donate my kidney to my father. So, at what point is going to be the perfect point to leave the restaurant, which is now, rolling again, and COVID's hitting, and they need me to be there because I have to watch what's going on to make sure that the rules are being followed. And, when I'm going to be able to leave this restaurant and donate this kidney. Because at that time, also, I don't know if any of you went out to restaurants in Roslyn, the SLA, the liquor authority, they were everywhere. They must have stopped by Roslyn Social, 20, 30 times. It was nuts. And we couldn't figure out, we were obviously, as restaurant owners, pretty upset because we were trying to just operate our business. We're like, guys, please just leave us alone. We're not doing anything wrong. We're trying to operate the business. I understand that nobody really knows what's going on with COVID. Nobody knows how it works. Nobody knows why it spreads. You got to be 6 feet apart. You got to wear a mask. Nobody understands what's going on, right? So we were getting upset. And I remember the stress that the liquor authority and the health department was putting on the restaurant owners at the time, myself especially, because once we were allowed to end the 10 o'clock curfew, we started letting people back in a little bit later. And, if anyone has ever worked or ran a nightclub or a nightlife place, if you have people coming in at 9:30, 10 o'clock, you're sure that they were somewhere else beforehand. And, it's very hard to control people like that. And, from an owner standpoint, I never wanted to tell people no. But at the end of the day, my face was up most of the time. And I had to tell them, hey, listen, you have to wear your mask. You have to be 6 feet apart. You can't be at the bar. Groups of 10 can't come in. I'm so sorry. I have nowhere for you guys to sit down. So that was very difficult for me. And it put a lot of stress on me as a restaurant owner. And I know a lot of the other restaurant owners felt the same way. But that carried throughout the summer. And then, getting back into the end of the summer now we're in August, September. I went through the whole process from March, April, May, June, July, with the kidney thing. And, the restaurant was now really rocking and rolling. And I said, now's the time that I'm going to have the opportunity, because I assumed that the winter came, it was going to be busy just because, I saw how it was progressing with people coming in to eat. So now's the time that I'm going to have to take some time off to donate, to try and save my dad, right? And obviously nobody knows, the doctors tell you that, you could die, there's a very, very slim chance that things could go wrong and you won't be the same and blah, 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 blah. So I said, screw it. I said, I'm just going to do it and we'll see what happens. And the doctors were very clear. They said, Nick, you have to do this before middle of October, because that's when COVID's going to come back. And in 2020, it was September 29th. Actually, what happened was I told my father, he didn't know about it. Obviously, he didn't know that I was going to be the one to donate the kidney to him. And I told him September 9th that I had surgery planned for the 13th. And he said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "You're going to get a kidney. It's going to be me, and it's going to be September 13th." And he was like, "Absolutely not. Like, that's too soon. I'm not doing that. Like, are you sure? How about the restaurant?" He's always out about the restaurant. How about business? What's business going to be like? I was like, "Listen," I was like, "Don't worry about business." I was like, "At the end of the day, I almost lost the restaurant once." you know, it's a little bit more important to me that you stay alive. So if I have to almost lose the restaurant twice, I'll be able to get it back somehow. Okay. So September 29th, I set the date to donate. And, I gave my dad my kidney, and I stayed out of the restaurant for 3 weeks. The doctors told me that, listen, you probably shouldn't go back. If you do go back, wear 3 masks, go crazy, whatever it is. I had the antibodies from the first time that I had COVID. So they told me that the antibodies are probably going to last me 3 months or whatever it was. So I went in there. I took 3 weeks off. I went back, and honestly, to tell you the truth, what I did was everything about the restaurant now became charity. We have this company, it's called No Let Up. And what No Let Up started out as, it actually started at St. John's. It was an athletic apparel program or athletic apparel company. I used to give merchandise out to people. It was kind of like a don't quit type attitude lifestyle. And that morphed into an actual charitable lifestyle brand, which me and my father run today. And we do events all over the place. But I brought that into Roslyn Social. So we had this perfect storm of things going on, right? At the time, we had charity, we had COVID, or the end of COVID, or people trying to get over COVID. We had the holidays. It was Thanksgiving, Christmas time. Toys for Tots, which was a huge thing that I did. I donated like 4,500 toys last year, and obviously I'm doing it again this year. So I just put my first box out, and it's starting to fill up with toys now. But we had this perfect storm of things that we were able to capture. That Roslyn Social was now not just a restaurant that survived COVID, but it was a restaurant with a story of, and I'll say it, as humble as possible, but a story of myself as Nick Luisi, who just went crazy in the middle of COVID and decided to donate a kidney, where one, even if he got COVID, he would have been probably dead because he didn't no one knew what was going on. His dad could have died because he had no kidneys working at all. And he came back into a restaurant business where conventionally everyone said, don't go into a restaurant because that's definitely where you're going to get COVID and you're definitely going to get sick. You're definitely going to die. So none of those things happened, fortunately, but we had this perfect storm of things that came together to build Roslyn Social into not just this restaurant, but this place where things were happening, where charity was going on, where events were taking place, where people were coming to donate stuff, where people were coming to eat and just hang out, have a great vibe. They were coming to hang out with me. I don't know, so it was a really nice, perfect storm of stuff that in, I'd say, November, December, really started to kick off Roslyn Social as the place to really hang out. And now we were allowed to be there all the time. So I knew that at night it was going to be very difficult for me to sustain this nightlife. So what I did was I started making brunch a thing. So brunch for me at Roslyn Social was bananas. It was crazy. And I had a DJ, I had a set menu, and I used to go from 11:30 until 8 o'clock at night, straight through on a Sunday, and it was the best days of the week that I had. By number wise, it was close to a Saturday, maybe a couple dollars less, but it was a lot less stress. It was a set menu. Everybody was there. They were having a good time. Nobody could dance at the time still, so everyone was kind of sitting down in their seats. But that picked up a lot of momentum in the branding and the marketing part, because it got picked up by News 12, Newsday, CBS. All these big news stations came in and they did all these spotlights on Roslyn Social because of the food, one, and then two, because of what we were able to do with being social without breaking the law. I guess that's what it was. So it really helped out a lot. And I'm as a business owner, again, going back to what I said before, a lot of people, took COVID as a really tough time, and I understand that completely. And it was very hard for me too, but I was able to take this terrible moment and really transform and flip this whole restaurant. Fast forwarding to now, I guess you could say, I made a promise to my pops, my dad, that, I was obviously going to, help him out whatever way I could. And, started with the kidney. Now he works for me at the restaurant, which is great. It's also a pain in the ass. If anyone has worked with their family before, they know that it's not easy, especially if you have to tell your dad what to do. But one thing that he's amazing at, incredible at, is talking to people and telling a story and making people feel like they're family, and that's what he does so well. So it's all good things on the horizon. I just ran the New York City Marathon because I told everybody when I donated my kidney, I said I'm going to be the first person to run the New York City Marathon within a year of donating. But I was a month late, but still my doctors and surgeons told me I was crazy. And I was able to kind of morph that into a positive thing. And I ran the marathon to whenever it was last week, New York City Marathon, and it was a great thing. And I based a lot of that stuff around the restaurant. And it was able to build a brand. And recently I donated food to I know that St. John's had a basketball game last Saturday. I donated a lot of food there to the program, baseball program too. They had a nice little thing going on for the incoming freshmen or recruits. So all in all, for me, COVID was very difficult. But if you're a restaurant owner and you see the opportunity to be able to make the change, especially times like now, because if people weren't adapting, they were just going to die. And, there were a lot of restaurants that were like that. And, a lot of the old timers, I'll say it, they were very stuck in their ways. And, they really focused on what they were good at and not focused on, okay, the world is changing right now. What we need to do is go a different direction and go a different route, because there was opportunity. There still is opportunity. Right now, it's kind of sucks because cost of everything is going up. I can't change the price of my menu because too much, because it's going to obviously deter a lot of people away. But there's one thing that I haven't done, and I'm interested to actually talk about this. And if anyone has any questions on this afterwards or input on this, I'd like to hear it, because as a restaurant owner, there's one thing that a lot of restaurants are now doing. And it's actually, from a business standpoint, saving people a lot of money. And that's the cash for discount program that's now going on with the credit card companies. So for example, if you get your check, it tells you that there's a price, and that price is a cash price. Then it's going to tell you, underneath, if you do decide to pay by credit card, there will be a fee that's posted onto that. Now, I know that in my area of Roslyn, I'm hesitant to be the first person to do it, just because, I may get a lot of backlash. But at the end of the day, honestly, there are a lot of restaurants that are saving a lot of money by doing this. And, we've always, as a business owner, we've always eaten that cost. That cost is kind of, something that we can't get around. And, is it fair? I don't know. I mean, but is it fair to push it onto the customer now after all these things that have been going on in the world? It's something that I've been trying to figure out. But it's something that I'm also open to testing out, because as costs go up in this business, and the restaurant becomes hard because it's hard. There's some way that we have to cut a cost, or we have to be able to make money for ourselves. Otherwise, in the restaurant business and hospitality, as all of that are on this discussion, I guess you could say, there's no real time off. You dedicate your life to being at this restaurant or being at this place, wherever you are. And there's no point in doing that if you're not going to make any money out of it. I mean, yeah, it's great to be a good person, but at the end of the day, you're going to just sit there all day and have costs rise, and then you're going to start losing money. What's the point? But yeah, I mean, that's one thing that I haven't done, and it's one thing that I'm open to kind of talking about. I do see that there are a couple of questions here in this little sidebar. The first one, marketing purposes, do you invite bloggers and media to your restaurant regularly? That's from David. David, I used to, actually. in the beginning. I used to hold tastings, and I used to have it on the rooftop in the summer of 2020. And I used to invite all the bloggers out there, and they used to come. I used to give them free food, free tastings. I haven't done it recently because the ones that did come continuously do come back, which is nice. But as I change the menu again and add some specials and stuff like that, I will be inviting them back again for the holiday, because something that I have at Roslyn that I planned out that you guys, I guess, are the first ones to know about. This Christmas season, holiday season, I spent crazy money, and I decorated the hell out of the restaurant. So it's going to be kind of like this whole winter wonderland holiday theme, and they're actually doing it right now as we speak. So there's a couple of people there taking stuff down and putting stuff up, and they already decorated the front. And now they're going to decorate the rooftop. I have a tent until January 2nd. So inside that tent, they're going to make it like a little winter wonderland thing. Then I have igloos that I bought last year that once I take the tent down, I'm going to put the igloos back up. So, but yes, getting back to the question, the bloggers, I did invite them, but once I change the menu again or add some specials on, I'm going to re-invite them back for free tasting so they can kind of see, what improvements and growth we've gone through with the food program at Roslyn Social. I see another one from Mark. Do you feel like the restaurant is steady now financially? I do, but again, at the end of the day, costs are going up. So, right now financially it's good, but there are still, things that I have to look forward to in the future, because, also where I am, rent is very high. So if you're a restaurant owner and you don't own the building, one thing that's important is that you really take a look at what you're spending. I know in the next, because as my lease is structured, rent goes up a little bit every year, but I was able to kind of work with the landlord on that, obviously because of COVID. But I know eventually when that conversation is over and that deal is done, when rent starts going back up to its regular rate per year, you're still gonna have to spend money. And if costs are going up on food, and rent is going up, something has to give. That's why this cash for credit discount or whatever it is, cash for discount thing may be a way to go, just to save restaurants money and to actually put some money back into the business, because you can't spend money on rent and cost and then you got nothing. Like I said, I'm going to change the menu a little bit as that time comes. I'm thinking about introducing a little bit more less ingredients, but more flavorful, if that makes sense, more natural type things that people can really taste what's in it. Do you have the same employees, Kathy? Question. Have the same employees now you did during COVID? I have the same number of employees, but I think I only have one two, I'm sorry, that are still there from COVID. So, turnover was massive for me. Not that it was a bad thing. It was super stressful because you didn't know, you couldn't hire anybody. Right now, labor, if anybody knows, is a very, very hard thing to find. Labor is a challenge, or at least it was a challenge. I'm starting to get a lot of people coming out, trying to find people, trying to look for work. But the one thing that is very important, which I don't have, which the next restaurants that I do open up, I will make sure that this is a priority. Having somebody in the kitchen as a chef that is, whether they have a percentage or a piece of the restaurant or a bonus structure or whatever it is, to make sure that there is always somebody in the kitchen that is a strong person. Because I'm not a chef. I'm the front of the house guy. So I'm not back in the kitchen. I tell them what to make and I tell them what tastes good and what doesn't. But, at the end of the day, you need somebody back there that's really going to, make sure that scheduling, food, ordering, which I order all the food now, but, they let me know what I need to get. But you need somebody there that's really invested in the vision and the goal of down the road, because we know that staff can walk away at any time. It's not their restaurant. There's nothing holding them back. right now, if you're a cook or a chef that's pretty good, you could probably make a lot of money somewhere else. If so, you got to kind of do the things that you have to do to make sure that your staff and your employees are okay. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's any more questions. Um, but again, I hope you guys, took some good things out of this. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, however possible. I'm sure, Stacy may have that information, but I want to super, 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 super thank you to everyone for listening to me go. I'm sure I do have a lot more to say. I definitely have a lot more to say. So if you're interested in that, you can pop by the restaurant. I'm there all the time. Um, come say hi. This holiday season is going to be a lot of fun. And I do want to thank you again for having me on here. So,
Thank you, Nick. And thank you everyone for joining us today. A very special thank you again to Nick for such an informative and transparent presentation. For the restaurant's complete bio, please go to stjohns.edu/APD series. Here you will also find a schedule of upcoming webinars and past recordings. In the meantime, have a great rest of your day and check Roslyn Social out. Take care, everyone.